No, I have people in.
I had to stop by the store before they close at 10 o'clock. I'll be down with
Cool. You muted him?
You guys like put in AirPods and talk to yourself and pretend like you're talking to someone in the phone. Is that what it is?
So, Muslim, you just want to drink something?
I'm okay, thank you.
Okay. Good. Yeah. Okay, everybody ready? Everybody ready?
What is that called?
Okay. All right, everybody. I think can someone log on to the Zoom to see if it's actually
here?
How we look? All right, cool. Turn it off now. Okay. Okay, so he's in. Can everybody hear me? Just send a message or unmute yourself for a second. Anybody?
Yeah, we can hear.
Good. Okay, cool. It's actually I'm really low. That's why. Okay. So this is the first shiur, I guess. This is going to be on the lesson of Azamra, which is a huge topic in Rav Nachman's Torah. Thank you guys for coming. This is not a replacement for Rabbi David, as for Shalom. This is just so we have a means of gathering together physically still and learning Rabbeinu Torah, which I think is very important. Very important thing to keep up. So thank you all who came. I guess let's get started. So what is Azamra? Azamra is finding the good point in yourself or in others or in anything. It's actually a very broad topic. And it's you'll find it actually applies in the entire Torah and every mitzvah and everything you do in your life is going to be, Azamra is constantly going to be coming up. It's finding the good point in yourself. Okay. So, what is the good point you find in something? It's what is the essence of something that's good? It's Hashem himself. Hashem himself is all encompassing goodness. Anything that's good that exists is actually Hashem himself. So when you find a good point in something, you are in reality seeing Hashem in something. So this is a very under talked about thing, but it can potentially fix any relationship. It can fix a lot of the issues that we have, mental issues or mental health, anything like that. And it can potentially even bring Mashiach. Believe it or not, if you actually master this, I know it doesn't seem like much, small class, everyone's talking about all kinds of things, but what we're talking about tonight, if you actually went and really, really put an effort to do it, and you literally would only need like a small group of people to do it, and it would start spreading, and thank you. And literally would bring Mashiach if everyone were to do this. It's interesting because that the secret to bringing Mashiach isn't really a secret. It's Azamra. If you master this, literally you can bring Mashiach. This is the secret to bringing Mashiach. It's easier said than done.
Seem to good in everybody.
Yeah, easier said than done. This is why we've lost the first two Beit HaMikdashes because on a deeper levels because of lack of Azamra. That if we had Azamra, it would have never happened. So what is Azamra? Finding the good in everything. Love your brother as yourself. So it was very interesting. The Arizal, as much as many things that he talked about in his life, all these deep Kabbalistic secrets and like all these things that Arizal talked about, there was one thing.
Is your rotation thing on the button? Yes.
There was one thing in particular. There was one thing in particular that he stressed on. It's literally written on his grave, which is before you pray, you have to meditate on the love for every single Jew. Otherwise, they say even your prayer might not go up. So, what is the concept of Azamra? This is a theme that's going to be coming up constantly. Is music. What is the essence of a song? Sorry, I'm just people keep coming in. All right. What is the what? Okay. What is the essence of a song? What happens when you play a song? Actually, before that, music, and everyone is familiar with this, and without even needing to explain, everyone is aware that music is capable of picking up your spirits, making you feel happy. So much so that during the times of the temple, when a prophet wanted to receive prophecy, and if he was sad, he couldn't receive prophecy. You can only receive prophecy when you feel at peace, when you feel happy. So, they say that when a prophet would be feeling sad, he would go to the Leviim, and the Leviim were musicians. They would play music for him, and it would pick up his spirits, and he will feel happy, and then he would be able to get prophecy. What is this concept of getting prophecy? This concept of getting prophecy is your soul opening up and getting an influx of God consciousness. And in other words, your soul opening up and feeling happy and feeling connected to Hashem. What causes that spiritually? What causes it is music. Now, spiritually, what is music? It's the concept of playing the good notes and canceling out the bad notes. This is a very big point because it's coming up constantly. Playing the good and canceling the bad. Those are two vital points. Yeah, it's about finding the good and canceling the bad. If you need both. For example, and a lot of us do this. We look at everyone, whoever it is in our life, and we see good and we see bad. They do something good, so he's a good right now, but we also see it with bad. Sometimes when they do something that annoy us, we might only see bad in that moment. But the whole point of Azamra is these two main steps, and it's important. They're both just as important as the other, which is number one, canceling out the bad, and number two, seeing only the good. So why does Rabbi Nachman stress you have to find a good point, one teeny tiny point? What does that mean? So there's a good point. You have somebody who annoys you. Let's say you find the good point. You find a good point in them. What about the other 99.9%? That's not annoying anymore. So Rabbi Nachman teaches that doesn't exist actually. That there's only good. So I'm going to give you guys a parable, a little story, and this is going to be used throughout the entire lesson because this is important. This is an important story. The king's son comes to the king, and the king says, "I need you to find this big light I have. It's like a lamp, and it's a huge light, and like I need it for something. It's very important, and you're gonna see it. You're gonna know which light I'm talking about. It's very, very bright. Because I need you to find it for me, because it's very important. We need it to light up. We need it to light up the entire main banquet hall. We need this light. So the king's son starts looking for the light. Comes into a room, and it's like dark, and he sees a very big, like a black looking wall, and he's like, oh, it's not here, obviously I would have seen it. And then he sees a tiny little light emanating from the wall, and he goes, what is that? Like it's a tiny, it looks like a little, like someone put a dime on a giant wall, and it's like shining a little bit, and you see a tiniest little bit of light. So he follows that light and gets closer and closer to it, and the closer he gets, the more he realizes it's actually not a wall. It's a big black thick blanket, and it's hanging. It's covering something, and then he notices that the light coming from the blanket is not actually coming from the blanket. It's actually behind it. What he's actually seeing is a hole in the blanket, and he gets close enough where he can just see peek through the hole. He sees that big light. It's there, just behind the blanket. The blanket's covering it. So he tells the king, "Oh, I found it. It's right here. I see it through the hole." And the king gets rid of the blanket, and now we have the light. And as soon as he moves the blanket, it's a whole big room, and the whole thing lights up. So this is important, mashal, because it's gonna come up a lot. What are we saying with this mashal? This light is every single Jew, and the blanket is how we see every single Jew. Whenever you see a Jew, if you ever think anything bad, or you think good and bad, or you see he did something that's not good, or my parents did this to me, or my wife did this, or my child did this, or this person screwed me over in business, or whatever it is, the bad that you see in anybody, in reality, what you're seeing is not really them, you're seeing a blanket. And what you're saying when you say or see something bad in somebody is that they are that blanket. When in reality, that's a lie. What they are in reality is a big light, and the blanket is just covering the light. So this is actually, I'm going to give you guys the secret to Kiruv, actually. This is what this is in reality. A lot of people, and not to put anyone down, but a lot of people are obsessed with handing out CDs. You got to hear this guy, he's a great speaker. Because the way he makes it sound is so logical, is so real, and then it's going to really bring you back to tshuva. The truth is that that's not true. I'm not saying people don't come back to tshuva for watching these things, but it's not because the guy was a good speaker or he brought up some good points. That's not true at all. If you think that this CD is what brought this person back to tshuva, it's 100% not true. It could be that Hashem wanted to use this person, this CD. This means as a shaliach that this is how they come back to tshuva. But in reality, Hashem brought them back to tshuva. He just did it through this means, but he didn't have to do it this way. He could have done it through any way that he wants. So, how are we saying that? A person doesn't come back to tshuva because he hears a combination of very interesting and a very good speech that moves him. How many times have we heard a very interesting and inspiring thing and then ended up not doing it in the end anyway? The truth is, who brings you back to tshuva every single time? It's Hashem. It's 100% Hashem every single time. And it's not from any speaker, and it's not from someone who gave you a very nice speech, and it's not from someone that inspired you, and it's not from someone who sounded really good. And it's not when someone gave you an irrefutable argument about why the Torah is true, or why it's logically sound, or scientific proofs of all that is very interesting and fascinating. They're like, yeah, the Torah is divine, we can prove it even scientifically, But there are people who have heard that, and you can't refute it, and you can bring up an argument to an atheist, and he can't refute it if you know how to argue well enough, and they still don't come back to tshuva. How come? Because coming back to tshuva is coming back to Hashem, it's your soul opening up, and you really think that this highest level of Geulah, us coming back to tshuva, is going to come because someone gave you a very interesting argument. That's 100% shtuyot. That when Geulah comes, and Mashiach comes, they're going to say, "Oh, what gave you the zchut to come back? Did you do something? Did someone pray for you?" No, I saw a very convincing CD about why Torah is scientifically true. Now, if in reality, if a person merits to come back to tshuva, Hashem could send it through this type of thing. The person will hear a very good thing, hear Torah from a very holy person. The heart will open up, and they'll naturally want to come back to tshuva. The Baal Shem Tov used to say, you don't need to prove to any Jew that the Torah is real, because every Jew deep in his heart, every single Jew, no matter how far he is, even an atheist, knows that Hashem is real, even if you want to admit it to himself. You have to show him that it's beautiful. You have to give him light. You have to open up his soul, at least a little bit. You open up his soul, then Hashem opens up the whole thing. So Azamra is actually the secret to Kiruv. Everyone is Everyone who comes back to tshuva, one of the main things that distresses them after they come back to tshuva is how all their friends and family are not keeping, and they think that, oh my God, what's going to happen to them? Are they going to go to Gehenna? Look how many sins they're doing. What's going to happen? Da da da. People are obsessed with now wanting to do kiruv, but this is the secret to kiruv. If you want the secret to kiruv, this is it. And by the way, this is also the secret to being impervious to ayin hara and fixing any relationship you have and bringing Mashiach and a lot of things. Actually, that's how powerful Azamra is. And it's actually if you look deep into every mitzvah, you could say it's really one of the main avodas of this entire world is Azamra. And unfortunately, I don't think people talk about it enough, but it's vital. What is the concept? So Azamra is the concept of playing a song. What is the concept of playing a song? It's 2 steps. If you guys want to do Azamra, you want to learn how to do it in your lives, you have to master these 2 steps. It's vital. So what is the first step? Not playing the wrong note, not playing the bad. There are 7 notes in music. A song is composed of a bunch of notes played in a row. How do you play each note in a row? It's 2 steps. The first one is you don't play the wrong note. The second step is you play the correct note. If every time we see someone and we see both the good and the bad, and we try to like weigh it out, and we say, oh, he's a good person, but he's got this problem, or he's more bad than good, he's like this, he's like that. What are we saying in reality? We're playing him a song, and we're putting our hands on the keyboard, and we're pressing every note at once, every time, thinking that that's going to play a song. Now, yeah, you did play the right note every time, technically, but you also played 6 other wrong notes, so it doesn't sound like a song at all. What happens when we don't look at some of the bad, but look at some bad and some good? We're still playing a bunch of wrong notes and the correct note. How do you do a Azamra? It's when you cancel out all the bad in a person, you move the blanket by realizing that's not actually them. That's just klipa. That's something separate from them. It's just covering them, covering the heart. It's how we're experiencing them. And you're finding the good point, because the good point is in reality actually who they really are. So a lot of people have trouble with this because it's actually very hard. It's very hard to overcome, maybe bad things some people have done to you. So it takes work, and it takes a lot of meditating and working on yourself and thinking about trying to see reality deeper than what it looks like on the outside. But if you see the good in somebody and focus only on that good, then what happens is Hashem opens up their soul and they will naturally come back to tshuva, or literally they will fix whatever dark, wrong thing it is that you see in them, that will automatically be fixed. Back to the mashal, why is it? How did he remove the blanket? He got closer and closer to the point. When you get closer and closer to the point where you're literally looking through it, and you see that you're looking through the hole, and all you see is the light, you don't see the blanket at all anymore. At that point, you did Azamra. Why? You don't see any of the blanket. You don't see any of the dark. You don't see any of the dark. Then Hashem removes it completely. But how do we do that? You first find the point. When you first walked into the room, what did he do? He saw a tiny little glimmer. What did he do after? Did he realize what he saw? No, you get closer and closer and closer. You focus only on that until you're close enough that you're looking through the hole. You don't see the blanket at all. The Baal Shem Tov used to say, it's so important, it's vital that you love every single Jew. And then his disciples would ask him, but like, what about the bad Jews? What about the ones who are like, doing bad things? What about people who are sinning? What about people who are like abusive or whatever? Baal Shem Tov said, you are supposed to hate, but you're supposed to hate their evil deeds. You're supposed to hate what they do, not them themselves. Them themselves is good. How do we separate between the two? Because it's actually very difficult. How do you separate between someone's deeds and who they really are? By understanding that the evil deeds are like the blanket. It's not really them. I hate the blanket covering the light. I hate it. What is the concept of hate? It's actually Shlomo talks about this, but what is the concept of hating something? It's a desire to want to remove something from existence. Is hating something. Why do you hate something? When you hate something, when you're angry at something, what is your desire? It's to unleash your wrath upon that thing. It's being angry at something. When you hate something, it's also a desire. It's a desire to remove that thing from existence. So when we hate the evil deeds, when we hate the blanket, the thing, the klippah that's covering the good in a person, we remove it. Why do we hate the blanket? Because it's covering the light. Why do we hate someone's evil deeds? Because I love them so much. The more I love them, the more I'm going to hate their evil deeds, because I realize it's covering up who they really are. A lot of people get it misconstrued. They think, oh, they'll think I'll hate what they do, and they actually end up hating the person. But the truth is, the more you love them, the more you'll hate their evil deeds. Why? Because you hate the more you love that light, the more you're going to hate the blanket covering it up, because you want to see the light. So that's why it's vital to do these 2 steps, which is hating the blanket, removing the blanket, and looking at only the good. Okay. Now, what happened? Azamra is in and of itself emunah, because what happens when we're having emunah in a situation? When you're having emunah in a situation, you're saying, I believe this is also for the good. In other words, you're saying, I see Hashem in this too, or I believe Hashem is in this too. In other words, you're seeing the good. You're choosing to see the good in something. That in and of itself is emunah. When we have emunah, you have Azamra. Rabbi Nachman says every person to have perfect emunah is made up of 3 things. It's emunah in Hashem, emunah in a tzaddik, and emunah in yourself. Any person that doesn't have emunah in himself also has a big blemish in emunah. A lot of people say, "Oh, I believe in Hashem. Why is it happening to me? Oh, I'm connected to the tzaddik. Oh, why is it happening to me?" But if they find themselves having a blemish in emunah, a lot of people think, how can I have a blemish in emunah? I believe in Hashem. A lot of them don't realize their blemish in emunah actually comes from a blemish in themselves. In a blemish in believing in themselves. And you need to have, just like you need to have a Azamra for other people that you see, you need to have a Azamra within yourself. In other words, see the good in yourself, which is, again, the same 2-step process of not see that, oh, I have these good qualities and oh, I have these bad qualities. It's in reality that these bad qualities are the blanket that's covering up the light, and the good is Hashem himself. So when you see the good in yourself, in reality, you're actually also seeing the good in everyone else. Well, how does this work? I think it was the Tanya. The Tanya said that if you can see the entire world spiritually all at once from a distance, you would see that there's actually not a bunch of Jews, but it's all just one soul made up of one body. It's all one body of souls. It's all just one thing, that every single Jew it just makes up one body. Everyone's just a different part. So in reality, when you see your soul, when you see the goodness in yourself, you do Azamra for yourself and you cancel out the bad and you only see the good. In reality, what you're doing is you're seeing the good in everybody, because you are actually one with everybody. And you're one with the Torah and one with Hashem. So the Zohar says that in the end, the concept of Hashem, the Jewish people, and Torah, it's all one thing. And the whole idea is that we remove the blanket, because everything else that makes it look like these are separate things, and that there's good, and that there's bad, and that there's Hashem, and then there's me, and then there's this another person, and some people are good and some people are bad. It's all one big illusion. And the more you do Azamra, the more you come closer to that truth that becomes evident when we have Geulah B'ezrat Hashem. That's going to be the ultimate truth that comes out, that we see everything at the end of the day was for the good. This is an amazing thing, because this is accomplished with a thought in your heart. You could literally do this huge mitzvah. What's crazy, it's a crazy thing if you think about it, because you could literally bring somebody back to tshuva, potentially, simply by having the right thought about them. And if this thought is correct, in other words, you really don't see the bad, you see their evil deeds, or if they do evil deeds, whatever, if you see whatever they do that's bad, in reality it's not really them, and you really don't see it as them, and you judge them only for the good, you can open up their soul, and that could bring them back to tshuva. Yeah.
So there's somebody that I know that's dating a non-Jewish girl, 30 years old, and dating a non-Jewish girl. So he's in type of like Yehush, even though he knows like he's whatever he's doing is not the power of everything, and he's very, very far from Yahadut and all that. So now during him, but the dude, whenever you sit and you look at the good points in him, and also then after you speak to Hashem and you say Hashem, like he needs help with this and this and this and that, so help him have the merit to be woken up and all that, because he's doing so and so, and this is not what you want, and this is definitely not what he wants.
Yeah.
So how do you properly come about that?
Okay, so according to Rav Nachman, when we come to do Hitbodedut and pray for somebody, you need to come like a lawyer, and you got to bring a whole case. This is how Moshe Rabbeinu saved us. First of all, we're all here because of Azamra. If you exist, you're alive because of Azamra, 100%. We would have been destroyed a long time ago if it wasn't actually for a lot of cases of Azamra, a lot of people making a good case for us, and us being saved. We should have been destroyed at the golden calf. Moshe, obviously he rebuked us, but when you come bring it to Hashem, what would he do? He would say all the things that we did wrong. He'd be like, oh, it was nothing. They didn't know what they were doing. Don't worry. Don't look at that. And then all the things that we did good is, look, Hashem, look at these tzaddikim. Forgive them. Look what kind of tzaddikim they are. He literally, the Azamra Moshe Rabbeinu did for us, Mamish saved us, because Hashem goes, I accept. And he gave us the Mishkan and everything. How do you pray for somebody who you want them to come back to tshuva or whatever it is? Number one, I think the main thing to realize is that
he goes to Israel. He says, like, going to Israel, I gotta wash my sins. I come back and I chill again, or I put on phone daily. I can't miss a day. So he definitely has good stuff in him.
So you have so Hashem put that in front of you. So you
what to pray for.
So you're looking at the wall, the black wall, and Hashem showed you a little point. Remember the point we were talking about? He showed you a little point. And now you got to focus on that point. The more you focus on the point, the closer you get, until it gets bigger and bigger to you, until you get close enough that you're looking through it and you see only the light. That's what you got to focus on. Focus on only that and cancel out the bad. If you do that, then you build such a case to Hashem to show him, look, Hashem, anything he's doing that's wrong, it's not really him. We wouldn't blame a baby or a child who doesn't know what he's doing. You wouldn't say, oh, he's an evil child. No, he doesn't know, doesn't understand what he's doing. He thinks it's good. So too, this person doesn't have, unlearned, or he grew up non-religious. Even if he looks like an old man, let's say, it doesn't matter. Spiritually, he's like a baby. You wouldn't blame a baby. So you bring it up to Hashem, saying, look, Hashem, he's like a baby. You don't blame him. Despite the fact that he grew up not religious and all these things or whatever it is he do, he still does all these mitzvot, and doesn't just do the mitzvot, but he does it from his heart, which is huge. It's huge. Even tzaddikim, the biggest tzaddikim in the world, what they try to accomplish in terms of taking away bad decrees, like this was a bunch of Baal Shem Tov stories. This same concept, like Baal Shem Tov and all his biggest disciples, like praying to remove a decree. It wasn't getting removed. One simple guy doesn't know anything, comes into the shul and just says one thing from his heart, the decree is completely removed. That's how powerful it is to do something from your heart. So when I pray for somebody, I always say, look what he does from his heart. Even one teeny tiny thing that the person does to Hashem from his heart, that can light up everything, and that can be a big schut, and you have to bring that schut to Hashem. Hashem knows it's there. He's waiting for you to bring it. Everything you see is on purpose. You have to open up a case for something. The Baal Shem Tov said, anything you experience, anything you see, sounds good. Anything you see, anything that's put in front of you is something Hashem putting in front of you so you can pray for it. It's not like, there's no accidents. So if you see that Hashem put this person in front of you, he put stuff in front of you, the bad stuff to remove, and he also put good stuff so you can focus and use that for your case and pray for him. This idea that I can bring a person to tshuva if I say the right combination of very, very convincing words, that he's going to be convinced, and that's what will bring it back to tshuva, is 100% yesh. It's ego. It's you thinking I have the power to do this. You don't have the power to do it. You have the power to want it. You have the power to pray for it, maybe. And you have the power maybe to make a good case if you really try. And then if you do that, then Hashem has the power to do it, because you're asking somebody to come back to Hashem. You're asking that whenever a person comes back to tshuva, it's like Mount Sinai. It's like a mini Mount Sinai. It's like Geulah. You're saying the whole concept of Geulah is that we were redeemed, we were saved. Hashem came and saved us. This idea that I can go and do Geulah for myself, it literally goes against the entire essence of the idea of Geulah. So thinking that you can do tshuva for somebody, or that you can convince someone with a very, very convincing lecture that you can make them do tshuva is 100% sheker. Hashem does tshuva for people.
So how would you pray to Hashem for someone to come back, not to show that you're arrogant?
You bring a good case to Hashem. You say, look, Hashem, I saw him doing this mitzvah. I saw him coming to shul on Yom Kippur. I saw him when they were carrying the Torah out, he came up to it and kissed it, and I can see he did it from his heart. I saw he gave tzedakah once. And then you go, oh, Hashem, all these other things that he's doing, he doesn't understand. He grew up in a place that's like this. He grew up in Soviet Russia as an atheist place, let's say, or he grew up in a complete secular place. Don't judge him. Don't put him down. He doesn't know any better. I understand if he learned the Torah and understood it deeply and got it, and then anyway rebelled against you, then I understand. That's not the case. He's like a child. So that's what I say. But everyone should speak from their heart. You shouldn't say from a script. When you speak from your heart, but just understand what you're trying to get to, is making a case. So that's the secret to tshuva. So this actually comes up in, I think you could probably find Azamra, the concept of Azamra, in every single mitzvah, because every single mitzvah is, in a way, you're finding the good in something. So let's see what that is.
Wait, well, what you were speaking about,
yeah,
it's also in Job 33. Started from the 14 down to the 30. It talks about Azamra in one of the pasuks.
How do you know everything by heart?
I don't know, I pray to Hashem and I read the Tanakh, and I remember when people talk, I remember, okay, this is true because it filters the Tanakh.
Yeah.
But if I hear something that it goes against what I read, then
okay. So what did you read? Tell me.
So it says, for God speaks time and again.
Mm-hmm.
Through man does not perceive it. In a dream and a night vision, when deep sleep falls on men,
okay,
while they slumber on their bed.
Okay.
Then he opens men's understanding, and by disciplining them leaves his signature. To turn men away from an action, to suppress pride in a man.
Okay.
He spares him from the pit, his person from perceiving by the sword. He is reproved by pain on his bed, and the trembling in his bone is constant. He detests food, fine food is repulsive to him. You know, when you're sick,
yeah,
you don't like food,
sure,
then it's gonna come. His flesh wastes again till it cannot be seen, and his bones are rumbled away till they are invisible. He comes close to the pit, his life verges on death. If he has a representative, this is some.
okay,
If he has a representative, one advocating against 1,000 to declare the men's uprighteous.
yeah,
You get what I'm saying?
yeah,
It says, then he has mercy on him,
yeah,
and declares, redeem him from he descending to the pit, for I have obtained his ransom.
so this sounds like it's supporting what I said.
Yeah.
that's what
Oh, I
said.
thought you were gonna like, okay.
No, I'm not going against you. I'm going.
I thought we were gonna, okay.
With you.
They just-
Okay.
They-
Usually you come after Rav David.
No. Let his flesh be
I was
healthy.
getting ready. All right.
So
So
you
you're with me,
saying,
yeah. So when you do that, when you go and you pray for any Jew, in reality, what you're doing is you're being like Moshe Rabbeinu for that person. How do we know that? Oh, how do we know this is going to bring Mashiach? I can prove it to you logically or mathematically or however you want. There's a spiritual truth called an arousal from below brings an arousal from above. I'm sure everyone is familiar with this, yes? Something you do down here is going to bring you something from up there. You get what you give, but it works a little differently with spirituality. It's kind of like you throw in $1 and it comes down $1 billion, or you throw in a rock and comes down a mountain. It's kind of like that. Arousal from below makes an arousal from above. Okay, so midah keneged midah in a way, but basically, they say like if you want mercy, you have to arouse mercy. You have to be merciful yourself, in a way, yeah. So if Mashiach comes, if Mashiach coming is gonna be Geulah, and the whole concept of Mashiach is that he's like Moshe Rabbeinu, and the whole idea is he sees only the good and takes us out of the bad, and he makes it so the world becomes Azamra. In other words, we don't sin anymore. What's that concept? The blanket from everybody is removed. Everyone becomes just the biggest light they can be. There's no more covering, and there's no more klipot. If that's what happens when Mashiach comes, that's the arousal at the end, then it must be brought on by a similar arousal beforehand, logically. If we know that that's going to happen in the end, then logically there must be an arousal from here like that's going to bring that effect. So in other words, how do we know that's what's going to bring Mashiach? Because we know what's going to happen in the end. Therefore, you have to do the same thing before it happens. An arousal from below. An arousal from below is Azamra. Seeing the good in others, seeing the good in yourself, seeing the good in mitzvot, seeing the good in anything. You know, whenever you say Gamzura Tova, or when you have emunah and you get a parking ticket and you try to have emunah and you say, oh, this is good, this is from Hashem. What are you really doing? You're having a Azamra. You're trying to find the good point in this. You're saying, oh, this is coming from Hashem. Hashem is that good point. Hashem is goodness in its essence. So this is also Garden of Gratitude. Garden of Gratitude. Rav Shalom Arush has a whole book, and like half of it is talking about saying thank you for the bad. I'm sure you guys have heard of this. There's all kinds of famous stories. You know, lady couldn't have a baby for years, going to every kind of rabbi. She comes to the Rav Shalom Arush. Rav Shalom Arush says, lock yourself in a room and say thank you, I don't have kids, for an hour every single day. She goes, why? That's crazy. He says, do it. She does it. She 9 months later, she got a baby.
Wrote it down to 15 now. 15 and then 8 times as well.
Yeah, whatever it is. The whole point is that there's a whole book with people's personal account, personal stories. And when we're saying thank you for the bad, all of a sudden we're seeing all kinds of miracles. Rav Shalom Arsh's advice is you keep saying thank you. You don't mean it, you mean it. You just say thank you, even for the bad. You're not married, you say thank you, Hashem, I'm not married. Even if you don't mean it, you just say it. He says, Rav Shalom Arsh says, eventually you're gonna mean it. He says, when you feel like you said it once and you meant it, at that moment, pray, B'ezrat Hashem, you should get married. Or what happens with anything, money, kids, whatever you're praying for. When you say thank you for the bad, if you guys didn't realize, that's Azamra too. What are you doing? I'm not married. Or I don't have kids. What is this? This is, so to speak, on the outside bad. I'm seeing the black blanket. What are we doing when we say thank you? We're looking for the good. We're saying this is you also, Hashem. We're seeing the little point. And when we're saying thank you, and we really mean it, when you say it and you really, really mean it, finally you keep saying it and you keep saying thank you for the bad, and you finally get to a point where you really, really mean it. And you say, and you're just as happy that this bad thing exists as if it was the opposite. Then what you're doing in that moment, you're seeing only the good. You're looking through the whole, and you're seeing only the good. And in that moment, you pray to Hashem. What are you saying? In terms of our parable, it's like saying to the king, "Oh Hashem, I found the light. I found the light. It's right here." And then he removes it, and then everyone can see it. In other words, his whole book on say thank you and see miracles is Azamra. That's why it works. Is because when you see the good point in something, you focus only on that. You bring out that good, and the whole thing. Because what are you seeing when you see a good point? It's like a star. I think I read this in the commentary in one of Nachman's books. Stars are concepts of a good point. What are you seeing when you see the night sky? Everything is black. But there's a few points where they're very little good points. Is that if you actually came up to a star very, very close and saw what it was, you would see it's actually huge. It's actually much bigger than where our whole world. But from where we're standing, it's a tiny point. But if you focus only on the star, you see it's huge and it's actually good. It's the same thing when you see the good point in anything. It's not that you're seeing a tiny little dot. It's you're seeing the light from something that's emanating from this very, very big. And when you focus only on the light and you get closer and closer, the closer you get to it, the bigger you see it is. In reality, you see the darkness doesn't actually exist at all. And it's only the light. That's why it's very holy, and it's very, very important to do Azamra, and to do Azamra with people, to do Azamra with yourself. Doing Azamra with yourself is also very important. You think you get into the victimhood mindset, think, Nebach me. What you're seeing is you're focusing on the dark. When you look at the good points, which are the parts in you that are Hashem himself, you're removing the bad. There's also the concept of the Brit, we come into this world to do Azamra. It's the Brit. What is the Brit? You're born with something attached to you that you need to get rid of. And when you get rid of it, it's covering the good, so to speak. In Kabbalistic terms, the part of your Brit that's covered by the foreskin is Kabbalistically compared to a crown, the Keter. In other words, seeing that Hashem is behind everything. So the concept Kabbalistically of doing a Brit is getting rid of something that blocks seeing that everything is good. Why do we do it on the 8th day? To understand that this is your mission. Why do we do it as soon as you're basically like 8 days after you're born? It's like the first thing you do essentially as a baby. To understand this is your mission in life. It's a Zamra. This is the main thing, really. It really applies to every mitzvah you're gonna do. It applies to Eid Boredut. It applies to everything. Having a Zamra fixes any relationship. You know, if someone who's your friend or your wife or your husband or child, whatever, does something to make you angry, do you in that moment see every good thing that they ever did to you, or do you only see what they did right now? You only see what they did right now, and that's what makes you angry. What are you doing there? You're doing the opposite of a Zamra. Is that going to bring anything good into the relationship? No. But if you focus on only the good, you wouldn't ever get mad at that person. You wouldn't ever have problems. But it brings miracles, so to speak. You focus on the good point, and Hashem opens up all the light. That's the whole idea. Is that you don't have to open the light. Your job is just to find the good and show Hashem, look, I found that it's in there. There's a bunch of light there, and Hashem opens it all up, and all the light comes out. Another plus of Azamra. Arousal from below gives you arousal from above. If you judge somebody and you think this person is like this, or this person's bad, or what was he thinking, what is he doing, or this person screwed me over, whatever it is, you're judging someone in a bad way, it brings an arousal from above. So what do the angels do? The angels come to Hashem and they say, look, your son is judging this guy. So it's only fair that we should open up the books on him. And we should judge him too. Let's see how he's doing. He's looking at what he's going on. Okay, let's see his sins. And then judgments are opened up on you. Asr Shalom. So it's also the secret to, is that what I sound like? It's also the secret to not getting evil eye. Everyone's obsessed with not, Rav Nachman has a whole long Torah on this, but a person can only receive evil eye from someone that he sees bad in. In other words, if you see only the good in somebody, even if that person wanted to give you evil eye, they wouldn't be able to. It's not possible. Evil eye is like a spiritual magnet. They want to give you bad, you have to see bad also, and that creates these two spiritual magnetic poles that allow them to attach to each other, so to speak. It gets much deeper than this. I'm butchering it. It's super Kabbalistic, but basically it's the secret to not being impervious to evil eye is seeing good in people. If you see good in anybody, you will never ever have evil eye on you. It's not possible. Yeah, this is I can find the Torah number. You can ask Rav David.
This is what you just said. The last thing you just said.
The evil eye thing? Yeah. This is one of the Torah's in the Mara.
You were saying how if somebody gives you a bad eye,
yeah.
Oh wow, you have finally got a Mercedes or whatever, and now you say like, oh, he has a good point in him. He can I'm shoot today, transfer or whatever. You create yourself a protection that go around you. That you have, so you don't get hurt when you look at the good. And
he said the way evil eye works is that it actually comes from the eyes and it has to bounce off you and then come back to them. There's a way it works, a mechanism. They say if you see only the good in them, when it leaves their eyes and goes to you, it's not capable of bouncing back. It's much more complicated than this. I'm just making it simple, and because it can't stick if it does that.
What about if you don't know the person?
If you do with everybody, then no one can give you evil eye. That should be your automatic.
Even if you, let's say, if you've never seen this person before, but you see his intention, you see his eye, like.
I had that question too. I'm not sure. We have to revisit that Torah, but I know it works like this.
Which Torah?
We're gonna ask Rabbi David which number after. I want to give you guys a couple of stories about the power of your thoughts and how powerful it is when you think something about someone or anything, how much it affects the world. So first Torah, first example, you're gonna want to hear this. 5 minutes, please. It's a good one.
I go prayer read, bro.
Huh?
I go prayer read.
You have 10 o'clock. I read upstairs.
Here?
Yeah.
You sure?
Upstairs.
Okay.
Depends.
No, you're good. We'll do it here. Okay, so here's a story I wanted to. A good example of how powerful your thought is. I'm used in Masechet Kiddushin in the Gemara. I'm not going to get into the exact the details, but basically, the Resh Lakish and Rabbi Yochanan are having a debate or having a discussion about one of the processes of getting married. Actually, marrying someone is a 2-step process. So it's like, in short, it's like you have to give them something, and they become, so to speak, betrothed, and then there's a second part where you actually marry them. So they're basically arguing. They're discussing something about. I think it was giving someone to somebody, and you didn't say or do anything, but you had the kavanah. Resh Lakish says just having the kavanah is enough. In other words, just having a thought in your heart that I did this is enough. And Rabbi Yochanan says no, it has to be an action. So Resh Lakish cites an example. You guys listening?
Yeah.
Come back. This is a good part.
Resh Lakish has an example.
Resh Lakish gives an example. He says something very interesting. He said, Tuma cannot sit on an item, on an inanimate object that isn't completed. But once it's completed, Tuma can enter into that item. And then he gives an example that's just, you first start building something, and then before it's done, you decide, you know what, this is good, I'm not going to build it anymore. At that point, you can accept Tuma. Which means what? Let's say I'm building a chair, and it has the stool part and 4 legs and a back, and I'm building the chair, and I don't build the back. I just build the stool and the 4 legs, and I just leave it, and I'm saying I'm going to come back later. I'm going to build the back of it, and I go, and I sit, and I'm somewhere else. I'm learning, and then I'm thinking to myself, you know what? I'm not going to finish that chair. I'm just going to leave it like it is. It's going to be a stool. It's done. I'm not going to do it. At that point, that chair can now accept Tuma. What does that mean? If I had a stool and I built just the stool part, and I put a dead animal on it, if you can see Tuma, you're looking at that stool, you would see that stool isn't absorbing Tuma. Isn't. Because I didn't finish it.
How would you know if something accepts Tuma?
Because Resh Lakish is saying this is a spiritual truth. That if I have a chair, just the stool, and I didn't finish building it yet, and you can see, let's say Tuma and Kedusha, you can see it, let's say physically, and I put a dead rat on it, let's say, you would see that stool is not absorbing the dead rat at all in the Tuma. But
because it's not finished.
Because it's not finished.
And you haven't thought about finishing it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. He's giving an example. Something that's not finished cannot become Tuma.
How would you know something absorbs Tuma? Like, how could you see it physically?
I'm saying it's a hypothetical.
Okay, I'm sorry.
So in that moment, you would see the stool doesn't absorb any Tuma. If you were staring at it in that moment where I was somewhere else and I thought, you know what? It's done. I'm not going to finish it. It's just going to be a stool. I'm not going to do it. You would see the chair absorb Tuma all of a sudden. In other words, you are able to change something physically in this world, the way something, an inanimate object reacts with this world spiritually, simply with a thought. How much more so a human being? That's how powerful your thought. Your thought isn't just like it's inside of you. Your thought's literally create the world around you. We just don't see it. So if you have a thought, when you have a thought in your heart about someone, Azamra is done through the heart. Azamra is done through a thought. You have a thought in your heart about someone, you open up their whole soul. Another story I heard this in a lecture. I just thought it was very inspiring. There was a guy who died a clinical death. I don't know if you guys know what that is. It's when it's when a person passes away and then comes back and he talks about what he saw and everything. So there was a guy standing on the side of a road. His car broke down. He was trying to fix it. A truck rammed in the back of his car, and then the car hit him, and he flew into a field, and he passed away. Now, when he came back after, he told a story of when he was dead in the field, of what he experienced. He stood up. He saw he was staring at his own body, and Eliyahu Navi came up to him, and he started taking him up to Shemayim. And when he looked down, he saw the field, and he saw inside the field there were a bunch of like like beings like this. They're all like sleep. They're all like asleep. And he said there's people who are suffering, and they're all like spiritually asleep in the ground. He said then they're going up, and all of a sudden he sees this gigantic light, like a giant ball, like the sun, and it lights everything up. It looks like daytime all of a sudden. And all those beings come alive, and they all try to grab the light, and they're like desperately trying to cling to it, and the light goes past them and goes into Shemaim, gigantic light. So then he asked Eliyahu Navi, so what was that? It was a huge light. Eliyahu Navi says that was the light from one person thinking about doing a mitzvah possibly. He said one person's contemplating, maybe I should give tzedakah, or maybe I should put on my tefillin, or you know what I'm going to say to him, or one person contemplating not even doing a mitzvah, just thinking about maybe I will do it.
So that light should be on constantly.
I heard.
Yeah, we don't see it.
I heard the same
It
similar
should be
thing.
on constantly. There's millions of people thinking about it.
Yeah, doesn't mean it doesn't exist.
Actually, we're all good then, bro.
So it means it's never turning off.
I heard the same similar stuff.
I'm doing this to illustrate to you the power of your thoughts. He didn't actually do a mitzvah. He didn't actually finish building the chair. I didn't change the chair physically in any way. All I did was have a thought in my heart, and the way that chair reacts to the whole world changes completely.
So what if you say I'm not gonna finish this chair, and you constantly think that this chair's not gonna be finished? It's still accept like tomorrow.
No, until it's a finished thing, it can't. It's just an example.
Why has he finished?
Resh Lakish says tuma can only be an object can only absorb tuma if it's a finished object. If I have a pen and I never finished making it, it's not finished, but I decide I'm just going to use it, but it's not done, technically it can't accept tuma. It needs to be a finished object.
So what if someone accepts tomorrow? What's gonna happen?
You guys are focusing on the wrong part of the story.
It's the thought.
That's not the point.
I got it.
So that's it, bro.
So I don't think I got to cover all the little parts, but
Next year.
B'ezrat Hashem, there's a lot more to talk about this. This is more like an intro to Azamra. B'ezrat Hashem, we'll see what else we can talk about.
Next year.
Thank you all for coming. Anyone have any questions? Anyone on Zoom?
Beautiful.
Anyone on Zoom?
Why don't you open it, bro?
Yeah. What you got?
I heard this before. Where, one rabbi was saying that by doing Azamra, you can almost change the person and bring him back.
100%.
And you think people are running up and he says not only him, the whole world.
100%.
Yeah.
100%. They say the Mashiach is going to come. We all keep 2 Shabbats. How do you get everyone to keep Shabbat? Azamra. There's only one real way to do Kiruv. Believe it or not, it's on all the CDs and the great speakers. It's when we start praying for each other and seeing the good in each other. Everyone comes back to Tshuva. Everyone starts keeping Shabbat. Mashiach comes. I mean, at least that's how I see it.
Yeah.
Anyone online have any questions? Unmute yourself and speak. Is anyone still here?
Very nice lecture, Alex. Very nice lecture.
Who's that? Who's that?
God bless you, Jay.
Who's that? I can add something if you don't know.
Yeah, please.
Yeah.
What do you mean? I don't mind. I'm not a rabbi. We're boys. We're all just sitting here talking. That's it.
It says what was the first Avera?
Yeah.
So the first Avera is that Satan says to Chava, on the day that you eat from the tree,
Yeah.
you'll be like God. You'll be like God.
Yeah.
And God doesn't want that because you'll be a competition. He ate from this tree, and he doesn't want you to eat from it because if you
Isn't that
eat
what the
from
snake said?
So the snake.
Oh, I thought you were like making a point. I was like, I'm pretty sure the snake said. Yeah. Okay.
So why is that bad? What happened?
Yeah.
Well, that's the first sin. Not eating the fruit was the sin. The first sin was that she accepted that.
Oh, that something bad.
That
She
because
accepted that God wasn't the only one.
no, not necessarily that. She accepted that God wants to do bad to her.
Yeah. In other words, she didn't see it as all good. She didn't have a Zamra.
She didn't have a Zama. And she
Yeah.
did.
In other words, the more you guys have a Zamra, the more you're gonna do Kiruv, and the more you're gonna bring Mashiach. I guarantee you, if you got enough people, you don't even need every Jew. If you just had enough Jews doing real Azamra from the heart and praying for each other and really trying to see the good in each other, only the good and not the bad, canceling out the bad, that would bring enough people enough people back that they would start doing the same thing, and you would have Mashiach in no time. You only need a group of people to start doing that with everyone they encounter. And by the way, if you start mastering this, you have to ask Hashem for help. then Hashem's going to send you a lot of people your way that it's going to be very, very hard to find the good on purpose. Why? Because Hashem knows he's got to send it to the professional Azamra guy to find the good in him. So bring him back. How's he going to bring him back? He's also his child. He's got to send him to the best guy. He's got to send him the guy who's going to have Azamra. So when you're working on yourselves doing Azamra,
You're scaring people right now.
piece of advice. No, it's good. This is going to bring, this is how you, this is Tikkun Olam. This is, so if you want to, if you're trying to work on Azamra, keep in mind Hashem's going to start sending you real tests, but don't be afraid and don't get down on yourself and don't be like, oh, how could I have Azamra? It's testing me. That's the whole point. Hashem's trying to send it to someone who knows is gonna find the good in his child. So B'ezrat Hashem, you all have Azamra in each other. You all have Azamra in yourselves. B'ezrat Hashem.
I actually heard the similar story.
And B'ezrat Hashem will all have Azamra. Yeah.
I want to share a personal story.
Let's share later because
Uh-huh.
I'm trying to do everything.
Okay.
But I want to hear it. You know what? How long is it?
It's fast.
Okay, say it fast.
So I was in the a few years back. I was in the living room. I mean, in the kitchen,
Yeah.
my house.
I know.
I was looking out the window, and I was feeling like a little down. I was like, maybe Hashem doesn't really care. You understand? Like, I was feeling a little down. So I thought, I wasn't speaking. I said, it would be very like nice. It would be beautiful if Hashem would like just show me that He cares about me and make a star, you know, a shooting star pass between these two. There was two.
What's with you and like little
Clouds.
shooting stars and fireflies? Okay.
So I was looking at these clouds pass between those two stars. I mean, those two clouds. When I said this, the shooting star passed right there.
Wow, that's
Started
crazy.
crying. I
You
started
want to
like,
hear
wow.
something crazier? I was thinking about this lecture last night, and I look up and I saw the biggest shooting star I ever saw
Really?
last night. Yeah, isn't that crazy? Where? Why do you ask questions that have no where? Where? I'm looking at the sky. Does it matter where I was standing? Were you in space? Because then it doesn't count. You can see a lot of shooting stars. Okay, thank you all for listening. God bless you all. B'ezrat Hashem, we shall have Azamra. For those of you who didn't hear the lecture, I'm pretty sure we recorded it, so it should be up soon. B'ezrat Hashem. I advise listening to it because despite the humility of this lecture, I think it contains the secrets to Geula. So B'ezrat Hashem, please listen to it. Thank you all. You should all be blessed, B'ezrat Hashem.
Not everyone's up. It's here. It's still.